Hello and welcome back to the Ship of Thesis and our Crusader Kings 3 tutorial series. So today we're going to be continuing with our succession law explanation that we started off in the previous episode. So if you haven't watched that, I'm going to make a little thing pop up so you can go click on that first before you start on this one. So we're going to launch straight into examples this time round. So we're going to continue to discuss Confederate Partition, which we said is the more complicated of the succession laws for people to understand. So in this scenario, we have created something a little bit different. It's similar to the previous scenario that you saw in the last video. In the last video, we had Petty King Murchad here and just his single son, and we noticed that the entire kingdom stayed together when he died. In this scenario, he has a single son, but he has 3 daughters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch straight into killing good old Murchad here, just to let you see what happens. So you can see the kingdom again has remained together because we had one son. And if you remember from the previous video, if you press F2, go back to the succession tab and have a look at our gender law, we're male preference, which means as long as a single man is alive, then all of these daughters become not disinherited, but they're just not eligible for the inheritance that time round. So now that our character's father is dead and he is in charge, he doesn't have any children of his own. So his half-sister is now actually the next in line. So hopefully you can see how that succession is kind of working. In the previous video, we noted that our uncle was the next player heir because we didn't have any siblings in that particular video. Now that we do have siblings, they take precedence over the uncles. So you can see like the close blood relatives and things take into account. If we had the gender law male only, these girls unfortunately wouldn't be getting a bean, and it would be back to our uncle. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kill our current character. So we're going to do an awful lot of killing. So if we kill him this time, goodbye, he goes. Long live Petty Queen Fine. I have no idea if that's how it's said. Well, we're going to go with that. Now, notice the kingdom still stayed together. And you might be thinking, hang on a minute. I thought you said that the titles split equally under Confederate Partition. Aha! Well, they do. But one of the key things to be aware of is they split equally amongst your children. Now, our half-sister is not our child. So you can see our eldest sister, she got everything. All of it went to her. Our other ones were kind of out of luck. They've got claims now because now they were eligible in the last round of succession, right? They're currently pressed claims. And again, if another round of succession would happen, these pressed claims would probably end up getting downgraded. In fact, we can test that, right? Because the next available heir is indeed our sister. So we can kill this one. We can do an awful lot of killing. Bye-bye. You see, everything still stays together. Everything is fine. And you can see, look, everything has stayed with us. And if we click on our other sister, they do in fact stay as press claims. I guess there's been no other children to make it a more tenuous claim. So there you go. You can see how the claims are being affected by that as well. So hopefully that example helps you visualize how that sort of succession works. So as long as you've got a man alive and a woman and you're under male preference, or indeed the other way around, if you're under female preference and you've got one female and many males alive, then you've actually kind of got like an heir and a spare. You can ensure that your realm goes to your male preference heir, but if the worst happens and someone stabs them in the eyeballs, or they're leading an army and something goes wrong, then at least you've got a backup. At least you've actually got a girl that it will go to. Now again, be clear, the moment that you go to only having daughters, it will be split equally amongst them. So I'm going to show you that example by reloading this save. Just so it can make it crystal clear by actually showing you. Because I find this sort of stuff is much easier to demonstrate to people than it is to just talk. And that's why I'm doing it this way. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to load up the... We're going to load up the console and we're going to just kill off our son here, who is that ID. Goodbye, son. You are dead. So now he's dead, we're going to kill ourselves, and you're going to see what happens to Munster. Currently looks this big. What's going to happen now? Oh dear. things went wrong. So this is where Confederate Partition really comes in, and this is where we're going to have a little bit of a meatier discussion about how Confederate Partition works. How are we doing for time? We are 5 minutes in, so we got ages, right? We're doing great. So notice now, if I press F1 and have a look at Petty Queen Fine here, she has the Petty Kingdom of Munster. Now she has the Petty Kingdom of Munster because that was her primary, or her father's primary title. So she gets that because she was the eldest. Your primary title always goes to the eldest. So we can probably actually see that in the description on Confederate Partition. It tells you primary title, realm capital, and de jure titles that are associated with it. So if we actually click on the Duchy of Munster here, you can see these are the counties that are considered Munster. As you know, these earldoms are all part of Munster. They're de jure part of Munster. So it kept those counties with us. And then it did something else. So this is where Confederate Partition gets interesting. It then created a duchy over here in Meath. So you can see our half-sister, or sorry, our actual sister, is a duchess now. She's a petty queen, in fact, because that's what the Irish call duchesses. So she is a duchess of Meath, and her sister is a duchess of Leinster. So they weren't previously. These titles didn't exist. So Confederate Partition went and created those titles. So that's what I was mentioning earlier. Hopefully I mentioned it earlier when I said the way that Confederate Partition works. It splits everything equally amongst your children, and it creates titles. Now, it doesn't always create titles, but the reason it's created titles in this scenario is because it tries to do things as equal as possible. Let's read it again. Let's have a look at what it says under the Confederate Partition. Under Confederate Partition, your titles will be divided equally between your children. New titles may be created for younger realm heirs. And it's saying that upon succession, all titles held by the late ruler will be divided amongst their eligible children, with the player heir always getting the primary title, realm capital, and any de jure titles associated with it. Younger titles will be given titles starting with those of the same rank of the primary title. If none are available, they will be given lower ranking titles. That's the key bit there. They get given lower ranking titles if your title is better. Now, this is where you really get to manage Confederate Partition. So we're gonna load another video and kind of show an example now. So you can see that this all split, and this is bad. Just before we move on and discuss that, actually, how are we doing for time again? We are at 7 minutes. Just before we discuss that, the way we could get this back, I think we kind of discussed it in the previous video to an extent, is we could find a way to, if you notice, currently these are all children, so our sister over here doesn't have an heir. So let's just assume something really bad happened to our sister over here. That's us, it says. This is you. Of course, yes, I don't want to kill me. That's terrible. Although it would end up working the same. I actually wanted to kill her, but I can't hover over her. There you go. There's my sister. Or one of my sisters. So we're going to kill this very big ID number. Ta-da! Notice that Munster's got bigger again, right? And then we're going to hover over this sister, and we're going to kill her. So we could, bear in mind, they're not our children. And I said you need the sadistic trait to kill your kids. They're not our kids. They're our sister. So, you know, it's not a nice thing to do, and people will frown upon it. But hey, we're now in charge of all of Munster again. So that's one way of dealing with it. We did also, I can't show you now, but I think I showed you in the previous video, we did also have claims on all of those territories. So, yeah, basically, I can show you in the next load, to be fair. I'm going to show you 3 sons. So that was a single son. This is now 3 sons. And it's going to work out exactly the same as what's just happened. So we've got Munster, we've kept the 3 daughters, but we've added 2 more sons. So we've got 3 sons in total. We're just going to kill the main character. Goodbye. Notice everything is still split in the exact same way, and the reason that's happened is because we had 3 sons to divide it all by. And you can see if we click on the territory here, we've now got claims on all of these lands that have left. So this is how your civil wars happen, and this is why Confederate Partition is messy. But you can get things back, and this is why I wanted to talk about mindset. So hopefully that all makes sense now. So how do we shield ourselves? How do we stop this split from happening? Well, one way we could do it is we could pursue being a king, right? So you notice we had most of Ireland there, right? We conquered most of Ireland. Well, what if we actually go and create the title? Because once we've got enough territory, we can go and actually create the title. And you do that by selecting the title itself, and then you'd have the create title option down here. Currently, we have the option to destroy it because we've already created it. And you can also add succession laws to it. That's going to be a different video all by its own. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in this mini-series. But for now, you could see we actually could create the Empire of Britannia, which is even higher. And you can see that's where the create title is. We click on the shield and then you can see that's where you can create it. Now, in this scenario, what we've done is we've created the kingdom title. So we're exactly the same as before. We own all these counties. We still have this duchy down here, the Duchy of Munster, but we've managed to also secure a kingdom title for ourselves. So, what do you think is going to happen? We've got the exact same scenario as we've just seen. We've got 3 sons, 3 daughters. What do you think is going to happen when we kill our character? Let's just show you. So, now, you can see the islands remain together. The kingdom has not split. Now, succession has still happened. What has happened here is that instead, our brothers have become our vassals. And that's the key thing. The land has still been parcelled out to them, but if you remember that key phrasing inside of Confederate Partition, it says that younger children will be given a title starting with those of the same rank as the primary title. Well, our primary title was a kingdom rank, and we only possessed 1 kingdom. So upon death, they couldn't create a kingdom title. There wasn't land to create another title of level of kingdom. So it didn't create it. Notice it didn't create any duchies either. So it could have done. This territory here, for this child, this territory, the county of Dublin is actually de jure part of the Duchy of Meath. So it could have created the duchy, but it didn't. And it didn't because that territory is not equal to our primary rank. So it didn't bother to create it. So this is, again, a way that we can make them a little bit less powerful. Now, whether or not we actually want to create the duchies and make our vassals dukes, there's an argument for that. But just for now, that's why that hasn't happened. That's why Confederate Partition has triggered in this way in this scenario. And this is the #1 way for you to keep your kingdom together as you grow. Once you've grown to the point where, when you've got a couple of duchies, it's really dangerous. Because when you die, having a couple of duchies, the titles will be of equal rank and they will split out equally amongst your children. If you have several duchies and you have a kingdom title, then the duchies will be split out amongst your children, because the duchies already exist, as long as they've already been created, to be clear. They will all be split out amongst your children equally, based on the age of your child and eligibility. But they will all stay under the main title. Now notice, we've got 849 levy here. If I go back to the previous save before our father died, when we were a king with 3 sons, we did have a lot more levy. We had 1,644. We're also over our domain, but don't worry, we'll talk about that in a different video. And I'm pointing that out because you no longer directly control these territories in the event of this succession. In this succession, you've given, if we look at what we've got, we've kept a whole bunch of counties. It's allowed us to keep the counties, as many counties as, actually, we're not dead, right? I need to kill myself again so that you can see. You can see, now that this has happened, it's allowed us to keep some of the counties. In fact, you can tell which counties it's allowed us to keep. It's pretty much allowed us to keep the counties inside of Munster, right? We own pretty much all of this. Although not this one. This is actually to our half-brother. But it tends to keep stuff together. It aims to keep stuff together. And then it divides things out as equal as possible. So if you've got 3 sons and 3 counties, they'll get a county each. If you've got 3 sons and 4 counties, it'll do 1 county, 2 county, 3 county, and then loop round. To an extent, like I said, it gives preference to the primary heir. They get the primary title, they get the capital city, and then any de jure territory that's part of that, it tries to keep together. So it has a preference to keep like a sensible sense of de jure together. Anyway, we have now come up to the 15-minute mark, or we're just over the 15-minute mark. Hopefully, that's the actual core concept of partition, and definitely Confederate partition. So hopefully that makes sense to you. In the next video, we're going to ratchet up just a little level more, and we're going to look at having a couple of kingdom titles, and we're also going to mix in some of the title laws as well within that, just to make things a little bit more clear. So hope you enjoyed that. Hope it made things a little bit clearer. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.